Aquarius. Let me tell you something you were never taught to believe. What walked away from your life didn't disappear because you failed. Some things leave not to punish you, but because you weren't meant to carry them yet. And here's the part most people get wrong. If something was truly meant for you, it doesn't get lost. It doesn't get taken. And it doesn't vanish just because you chose yourself. Right now, there's a quiet return happening in your life. Not loud. Not dramatic. But undeniable. Something you once stepped away from is finding its way back, only this time, you're not the same person anymore. Aquarius, stay with me for a moment. Take a slow breath. Let your shoulders drop. There's something gentle I want to say to you. Something most people only understand much later in life. Sometimes a closed door is not rejection. It's protection. Not from the world, but from becoming someone you were never meant to be. You see, you don't walk away from things lightly. When you leave, it's usually after you've tried to stay longer than you should. After you've analyzed every angle. After you've asked yourself if you're being too idealistic or not brave enough. And when you finally turn your back on something, it's rarely impulsive. It's heavy. It's thoughtful. It's quiet. Have you ever noticed that about yourself? There were moments when life seemed to slow down around you. Almost like the universe pressed its palm against your chest and said, "Not yet." Not because you didn't deserve more, but because more would have crushed the version of you that existed back then. Aquarius, you carry ideas before you carry proof. You sense futures before they have names. And that means you sometimes arrive early to places that aren't ready for you yet. That can feel lonely. It can feel like standing on the edge of a room where the lights haven't turned on. You can see the shape of what's coming, but you can't step into it just yet. So you wait. Or you leave. Or life moves you somewhere else entirely. And later, when you look back, you wonder if you made a mistake. If you should have stayed longer. If walking away cost you something permanent. Let me ask you something softly. What if leaving was the very thing that allowed you to grow into someone capable of receiving what you couldn't hold before? Because here's what's different now. You don't need to prove your worth by enduring discomfort. You don't need to stay in places that drain your clarity. You don't need to explain why certain paths no longer align with who you are becoming. There is a steadiness in you now. A quieter confidence. You listen more carefully to your inner signals. You notice when something feels heavy instead of expansive. And that awareness, that's not loss. That's evolution. Have you felt it lately? That subtle sense that you're standing on firmer ground than before. What's interesting about growth is that it changes how things recognize you. Opportunities that once slipped past you start slowing down. People who couldn't meet you where you were suddenly see you clearly. Not because they changed overnight, but because you did. There's a reason certain things feel closer now. Not urgent, not chaotic. Just present. You're not chasing anymore. You're allowing. And there's a big difference between the two. Stay right here with this feeling. Because the story unfolding now is not about regret or what could have been. It's about understanding why everything happened in the order it did and what becomes possible when you finally meet life as the person you've grown into. Let's keep going. All right, stay right here with me. Don't rush this part. There's a softer truth we need to sit with now. One that doesn't shout. One that usually arrives after experience has already left its marks on you. Aquarius, you have a rare way of sensing possibility. You feel doors before they open. You notice movement long before anyone else does. And because of that, you've spent much of your life afraid of missing the moment when everything finally lines up. So sometimes you said yes too quickly. Not because your heart was ready, but because your mind whispered, what if this is the only chance? You stayed in rooms that felt heavy. Not because they nourished you, but because you feared that leaving meant starting over. You accepted less than what you felt inside. Less clarity, less respect, less ease. All because a quiet pressure followed you everywhere. The pressure to not fall behind. Have you noticed how exhausting that kind of vigilance can be? It slowly teaches you to confuse urgency with destiny. To mistake availability for alignment. To believe that if something appears, it must be taken immediately. But here's what life has been trying to show you, gently, over time. What is truly meant for you does not require self-abandonment. It does not demand that you override your intuition. And it never asks you to betray your own sense of timing. Aquarius, the things that drained you were not tests you failed. They were lessons that refined your discernment. You learned how your body speaks when something is off. You learned how your energy changes when you are forcing yourself to fit. You learned that saying yes while shrinking inside is its own kind of loss. And maybe now, looking back, you can see it more clearly. Every time you chose from fear, the cost was paid slowly, through fatigue, through restlessness, through the quiet feeling that something essential was being postponed. Let me ask you something gently. What if the moments you feared missing were never meant to be seized at all? What if they were meant to pass by so you could recognize the difference between opportunity and alignment? Because something has shifted in you recently. You don't rush the same way anymore. You pause. You listen. You notice how your breath responds before your thoughts do. There is more patience in your decisions now, more self-respect. And with that comes a surprising calm. You're beginning to understand that timing is not a race, it's a conversation between who you are becoming and what is ready to meet you. And the beautiful thing is this: the more you honor your own pace, the less power fear has over your choices. You don't need to grab at life anymore. Life knows where you are. Sit with that for a moment. Because what's unfolding next is not about scarcity or pressure. It's about learning to trust that when something is right, it arrives without asking you to abandon yourself to keep it. Let's stay with that feeling as we continue. There's a moment after all that effort when the noise finally drops. Not because life has ended, but because it is asking you to listen differently now. Aquarius, you remember that season. The one where everything seemed to slow down without permission. Plans paused. Momentum faded. Days stretched longer than your patience wanted to allow. You didn't choose that stillness, it chose you. And at first, it felt unbearable. Like being pulled off the road while everyone else kept driving. Like watching lights move forward in the distance while you were asked to sit with questions that had no immediate answers. You told yourself you were falling behind, that you had missed the rhythm, that life was quietly moving on without you. But time was not punishing you. It was protecting you. Because silence has a way of revealing what noise hides. In that quiet, your nervous system began to unwind. Your thoughts slowed enough to hear themselves clearly. And without distraction, you started noticing truths you had ignored when everything was loud. You began to see where you had been overextending, where you had been living ahead of your own foundation, where your vision was expansive but your roots were still being formed. Aquarius, not all growth looks like motion. Some of the most important evolution happens underground. While nothing on the surface seemed to change, your inner structure was reorganizing. Beliefs were shedding. Old definitions of success were quietly dissolving. You were learning what stability actually feels like in your body, and that matters more than you were ever taught to believe. Because a life built too quickly often collapses under its own weight, and you were never meant to survive your future. You were meant to inhabit it. Let me ask you something softly. If everything had moved faster back then, would you have had the strength to hold what you were asking for? The pause taught you discernment. It taught you how to be alone without feeling abandoned. It taught you how to sit with uncertainty without trying to immediately fix it. That kind of inner steadiness cannot be rushed. Now, when movement begins again, you feel the difference. There is less panic in your choices, less urgency, more intention. You are no longer chasing momentum for its own sake. You are choosing direction. And here is the quiet miracle of it all. That stillness you once resisted has become the place you can return to when life gets loud again. It gave you an internal anchor, a sense of self that does not disappear when progress slows, a knowing that your worth is not measured by speed. Aquarius, the pause did not delay your life, it aligned it. And as things begin to move again, you will step forward differently, not desperate, not rushed, but rooted, present, and finally ready to build something that lasts. Stay with me. Because what unfolds next is shaped by the strength you gained in that quiet. There is a quiet strength that arrives after everything you have lived through. It does not announce itself. It settles into your chest like a steady breath you can finally trust. Aquarius, somewhere along the way, you began to notice something changing, not outside of you, inside. You stopped reaching automatically, stopped fixing what was never yours to carry. And for the first time, you felt how heavy that weight had been. You were never meant to hold the emotional balance of every room you enter. Yet you learned early how to smooth tension, how to read energy before words were spoken, how to stay agreeable even when your body was asking for rest. That skill once kept you safe, but it also taught you to disappear quietly. Now there is a different voice rising within you. Not loud, not defensive. Just clear. It says, I cannot go there anymore. It says, this costs me too much. It says, I choose myself without apology. And when you first listened to that voice, it felt unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable, like stepping out of a role you had played for years. You worried about disappointing people, about being misunderstood, about losing connection if you stopped giving endlessly. But something surprising happened. Your energy stopped leaking, your nervous system softened, and the world did not collapse. Aquarius, saying no is not rejection. It is alignment. Every boundary you place is a quiet declaration of self-respect. It tells life how to meet you. It teaches others where love can actually exist without resentment. You are not here to earn belonging through exhaustion. You are not here to be chosen because you sacrificed yourself. Real connection does not require self-abandonment. Notice how peace enters when you stop over-explaining. When you allow silence to hold your decision. When you trust that the right people do not demand access to every part of you. Let me ask you gently. Who did you become when you realized you no longer needed permission to protect your energy? This lesson did not make you colder. It made you clearer. You still care deeply. You still hold compassion. But now your kindness has a spine. And here is the truth many never tell you. What is truly meant for you does not retreat at the sound of your boundaries. It steps closer. What leaves when you say no was never aligned with your future. It was only comfortable with your silence. Aquarius, you are learning that strength does not come from endurance alone. It comes from discernment, from knowing when to give, and when to remain still. As you stand more firmly in yourself, something shifts ahead of you. Paths begin to narrow, choices become clearer, and what approaches next carries a different quality, less draining, more reciprocal. Stay right here with me. Because the moment you stopped shrinking to be accepted, you unknowingly opened the door to a version of life that finally meets you where you are. There is a moment when life circles back to you, not loudly, not dramatically. It arrives quietly, almost respectfully. Aquarius, you may feel it before you can name it. A familiar energy brushing past your awareness. Something that once belonged to your story now standing at the edge of your present. It does not look the same, and neither do you. What returns now carries a different weight, not urgency, not pressure. Just recognition. You might notice an old door opening again, or a person reaching out with softer eyes, or a path you once walked now appearing from a higher vantage point. And this time your heart does not race. You are not grasping. You are not negotiating with fear. You are simply observing. That alone tells me how much you have changed. Before, you would have leaned forward, wondered what you needed to do to make it stay, to make it work. Now you pause. You listen to your body. You feel for alignment instead of hope. Aquarius, this is the difference between desire and discernment. What is returning is not here to rescue you. It is here to meet you. And that only happens when you are no longer chasing the past version of yourself. Here is something most people miss. Life does not bring things back to test your weakness. It brings them back to reveal your strength, to show you who you have become in the presence of what once defined you. Notice how you no longer bend your truth to fit the moment. Notice how you ask better questions now. Notice how you can walk away without drama and stay without losing yourself. Let me ask you something gently. If this opportunity had arrived back then with the clarity you hold now, would it have felt like destiny or simply like timing finally catching up? Because what is meant for you does not demand that you become smaller to receive it. It adapts to your growth. Aquarius, the universe is responding to the boundaries you set, to the patience you practiced, to the silence you honored instead of filling with fear. That is why what comes back now feels steadier, cleaner, more honest. And here is the most important shift. You are no longer afraid to lose it, not because you do not care, but because you trust yourself enough to know you will be whole either way. That kind of detachment is not cold. It is sacred. It allows love to be chosen, not clung to. It allows opportunities to be evaluated, not worshipped. As this energy settles in front of you, do not rush to name it. Let it reveal itself slowly. What belongs will stay without force. What does not will fade without regret. And whatever unfolds next will not ask you to go backward to receive it. Stay with me here, because this return is not the ending you imagined. It is the quiet beginning of a chapter that finally recognizes the person you have worked so hard to become. There is a different kind of knowing that settles into the body when timing is right. Not excitement, not adrenaline. It is quieter than that. Aquarius, it feels like standing still inside yourself while the world finally stops pulling. Nothing rushes you. Nothing demands proof. Nothing asks you to become louder or faster just to be chosen. Instead, there is space. You may notice how your breath changes first. It deepens. Your shoulders soften. Your thoughts stop racing ahead for answers that are not yet needed. That is clarity arriving without force. When something truly aligns with you, it does not light a fire of panic. It lights a steady flame. You are not negotiating your values. You are not scanning for hidden costs. You are simply present. And presence, Aquarius, is the rarest form of certainty. Before, the right thing felt urgent, like a window that might slam shut if you did not leap fast enough. Now, the right thing waits, patient, grounded. It allows you to look it in the eye and decide from wholesome, not fear. This is how you know you have grown. You no longer confuse intensity with truth. You no longer mistake chaos for passion. You no longer believe that love or purpose must arrive with pressure to be real. The right timing respects your nervous system. It does not shake your sense of self. It does not test how much you are willing to tolerate. It does not make you abandon your intuition just to keep something alive. Aquarius, what is meant for you now feels calm even when it matters deeply. That calm is not boredom. It is safety. And safety allows discernment. You can say yes without losing sleep. You can say no without guilt. You can pause without fear that everything will disappear. Because something aligned does not threaten to leave when you take your time. Let me ask you something softly. When was the last time you felt this steady while standing at the edge of a decision? If your answer surprises you, that is the point. This is unfamiliar because you are no longer operating from survival. You are choosing from trust. Trust in your timing, trust in your boundaries, trust in the version of you that no longer needs to rush into meaning. And here is the quiet miracle. When timing is right, you are not trying to control the outcome. You are listening. Listening to your body. Listening to what feels sustainable. Listening to whether this path supports the life you are building now, not the one you were trying to escape before. This is the difference between wanting something and being ready to hold it. Aquarius, readiness feels like peace with options. You know you will be okay whether you move forward or let it pass. That freedom is not indifference. It is sovereignty. Stay with this feeling. Do not rush to label it or explain it away. Because what comes next will ask you to trust this calm more than any promise. And the story unfolding ahead is not about proving yourself anymore. It is about recognizing when life finally speaks in a voice that sounds like your own. There is a subtle shift in the air when someone truly begins to move toward you. Not loudly, not dramatically. It feels more like a presence forming before it ever asks to be seen. Aquarius, this is not someone rushing in to be noticed. This is someone who has already been paying attention long before they found the courage to step closer. They have watched how you carry yourself now. Not the version of you that tried too hard. Not the version that overgave. The version that pauses, that listens, that no longer explains their worth. And something in them recognized that change. You may not have felt pursuit. You may have felt curiosity, a quiet sense of being considered rather than chased. That is not an accident. This person is not driven by fantasy. They are driven by timing, by responsibility, by the awareness that showing up halfway would cost too much this time. They know hesitation has consequences now. What is different, Aquarius, is that they are not trying to convince you. They are preparing themselves. There is a maturity here that does not announce itself. It shows up as consistency, as follow-through, as an energy that does not disappear when things slow down or become real. You might notice they speak less but mean more. They are not offering promises to be believed. They are offering presence to be felt. And here is the part that matters most. They are responding to who you are today, not who you used to be when you were easier to impress. They see your boundaries and do not try to negotiate them. They see your independence and do not feel threatened by it. They see your depth and are willing to meet it instead of asking you to surface for comfort. This is not someone arriving to be saved. This is someone arriving prepared to build. And if you feel a quiet hesitation inside yourself, that does not mean something is wrong. It means you are discerning now. You are no longer swept away by intensity alone. You are watching how someone handles time, silence, and responsibility. Ask yourself gently, do they respect your pace without pulling away? Do they show steadiness without needing applause? Do they stay present even when nothing is being promised yet? These are the signals you did not know to look for before. And here is the most healing part of all. You do not need to lean forward to keep them close. They are already stepping in. Slowly, intentionally. Because this time they know what is at stake. They know that meeting you means meeting someone who will not disappear into them, or bend themselves small to be chosen. They know you will walk away from anything that cannot stand in truth. And instead of fearing that it draws them closer, Aquarius, this is not about romance alone. This is about recognition of your growth, your discernment, your quiet authority. And as this presence comes into focus, you may realize something unexpected. You are not wondering if you are enough. You are simply deciding if this energy belongs in your life. That is power held softly. Stay with that feeling. Because what unfolds next will not ask you to chase or convince or compromise your center. It will ask you one honest question. Can you receive what meets you without armor? There is a softness that settles in when the search finally ends. Not the kind that feels empty, the kind that feels complete. Aquarius, listen closely. This quiet you are feeling now is not boredom. It is not stagnation. It is arrival. For so long, your life has felt like motion, reaching, questioning, adjusting yourself to see where you might fit next. Even when you were still, something inside you was scanning the horizon. But lately, something has changed. You are no longer looking outward with urgency. You are no longer measuring yourself against what might be missing. There is a grounded presence in you now. A sense that whatever matters will find you without force. And that realization does not come to everyone. It comes after disappointment has taught you discernment. After silence has sharpened your intuition. After you learned how to sit with yourself without needing constant reassurance. Aquarius, what belongs to you does not need to be hunted. It responds to resonance. That is why things are aligning in subtler ways now. A conversation that lands at the exact moment you are ready to hear it. An opportunity that appears without pressure. A connection that does not drain you but steadies you. You are not being rewarded for patience. You are being met because you have changed. Notice how you are no longer trying to control outcomes. You let moments unfold. You allow people to reveal themselves. And because of that, life feels less like a test and more like a dialogue. Here is a truth meant just for you. Nothing that is meant for you arrives late. It arrives calibrated to who you are becoming. If something had come earlier, it would have required you to abandon parts of yourself you worked hard to grow into. That is why the timing matters. Now you can receive without shrinking. You can commit without disappearing. You can love without losing your center. That is not luck. That is evolution. Ask yourself quietly. When was the last time you felt this calm without feeling numb? When was the last time you trusted the unfolding instead of trying to predict it? This is not the end of your story. It is the moment where the struggle to prove yourself finally loosens its grip. And from here, what comes next does not ask you to chase meaning. Meaning walks beside you. Aquarius, you are not behind. You are not catching up. You are standing exactly where clarity lives. And as you move forward from this place, notice how life responds differently to you. Less resistance. More recognition. Stay present in this stillness. There is more unfolding here than meets the eye. Because what is approaching now is not something you need to find. It is something that already knows your name and is moving toward you at the same steady pace you finally learned to keep. And before we close this space together, let me leave you with something real. Something steady. Aquarius, this journey was never about chasing signs. It was about learning how to stand still without abandoning yourself. If you felt seen tonight, if even one sentence settled quietly in your chest, that is not coincidence. It means you were ready to hear it. You have spent years becoming someone who no longer needs to prove their depth or explain their sensitivity. You are learning how to trust the timing of your own soul. How to let life meet you instead of outrunning it. That is not passive. That is powerful. So here is my blessing for you. May you continue to choose clarity over urgency. May you honor your boundaries without guilt. May what finds you next recognize the strength it takes to be as gentle as you are. And if this message resonated, if it felt like it was meant for you alone, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment. Not to explain your story, but simply to say, I am here. I am listening. Subscribe if you want to keep walking this path together. This space is for those who move through life consciously, who believe healing can be quiet and growth does not have to be loud. Trust yourself, Aquarius. The part of you that guided you here knows exactly where it is going. And stay close. Because this journey does not end tonight. The next message is already forming. And when it arrives, it will meet you right where you are.